Good morning, my friends. I cannot believe it is the last week of school. What a crazy year has flown by, has gone by, and I had the pleasure of being with each and every one of you. Some online, some in the classroom. It's all over the place. Let's go ahead and see. I don't know that we'll finish it today, but we'll see what we can do. Augie had just got back from the nature retreat, and in the nature retreat, he had some pretty horrible things happen to him. Some people really bullied him. They really made fun of him for his face, and but the weird thing is he ended up having some unexpected friends protect him. Amos and Miles and Henry, who Miles and Henry had been quite mean to him actually, protected him, and it was kind of a nice thing. And suddenly he felt more respected at school, like people were there for him. So the graduation ceremony was held in the Beecher Prep upper school auditorium. It was only about a 15-minute walk to from our house to the other campus building, but Dad drove me because I was all dressed up and had on my new shiny black shoes that weren't broken in yet. I didn't want my feet to hurt. Students were supposed to arrive at the auditorium an hour before the ceremony started, but we got there even earlier, so we sat in the car and waited. Dad turned on the CD player and our favorite song came on. We both smiled and started bobbing our heads to the music. "Hey, is my tie on straight?" I said. He looked and straightened it a tiny bit and just kept on singing. "Does my hair look okay?" I said. Dad smiled and nodded. "Perfect. You look great, Augie." "We had put some gel in it this morning," I said, pulling down the sun visor and looking in the mirror. "It doesn't look too puffy." "No, it's very, very cool, Augie. I don't think you've ever had it this short before, have you?" "No, I got it cut yesterday. I think it makes me look more grown up, don't you?" "Definitely," he said, smiling. "Look at you, Augie," he said, smiling from ear to ear. "Look at you. You're so grown up and spiffy. I can't believe you're graduating from 5th grade." "I know, it's pretty awesome, right?" I nodded. "Feels like just yesterday you started. Remember I still had that Star Wars braid hanging from the back of my head?" "Oh my gosh, that's right," he said, rubbing his palm over his forehead. "You hated that braid, didn't you, Dad?" "Hate is too strong of a word, but I definitely didn't love it." "You hated it. Come on, admit it." "No, I didn't hate it," he smiled, "but I will admit to hating that astronaut helmet you used to wear. Do you remember? The one Miranda gave me?" "Of course I remember. I used to wear that thing all the time." "Good God, I hated that thing," he laughed, almost more to himself. "I was so bummed when I lost it." "Oh, it didn't get lost," he answered casually. "I threw it out." "What?" I said. He just kept on singing. "Dad," I said, turning the volume down. "What?" "What?" he said. "You threw it out?" He finally looked at my face and saw how mad I was. I couldn't believe he was being so matter of fact about the whole thing. I mean, to me, this was a major revelation. And he was acting like it was no big deal. "Augie, I couldn't stand seeing that thing cover your face anymore," he said. "Dad, I love that helmet. It meant a lot to me. I was bummed beyond belief when it got lost. Don't you remember?" "Of course I remember, Augie." "Ugh, Augie, don't be mad. I'm sorry. I just couldn't stand seeing you wear that thing on your head anymore, you know? I didn't think it was good for you." He was trying to look me in the eye, but I wouldn't look at him. "Come on, Augie. Please try and understand," he continued, putting his hand under my chin and making me look at him. "Augie, the truth is you were wearing that all the time, and I miss seeing your face. I know you don't always love it, but you have to understand, I love it. I love this face of yours, Augie, completely and totally. And it was kind of broke my heart that you were always covering it up." "Does Mom know?" I said. "No way. Are you kidding? She would have killed me." "She tore the place apart looking for that helmet, Dad. I mean, she spent like a week looking for it in every closet, in the laundry room, everywhere." "I know. That's why she'd kill me," he said. That made me start laughing, which made him open his mouth wide like he realized something. "Wait a minute, Augie. You have to promise you will never tell your mom anything about this." I smiled and rubbed my palms together like I was about to get very greedy. "Let's see. I'll be wanting a new Xbox when it comes out next week, and I'll definitely be wanting my own car in about 6 years. A red Porsche would be nice." He started laughing. "Oh boy," he said. "You really have grown up." The part of the song we loved the most had started to play, and we turned up the volume and just both started singing. We always sang this part at the top of our lungs, trying to hold the last note as long as the guy who sang it in the song, which always made us crack up. While we were laughing, we noticed Jack had arrived and was walking over to our car, and I started to get out. Hold on, Dad said. I just want to make sure you forgive me, okay? Yeah, I forgive you. Thank you. But don't ever throw anything else of mine again without telling me. I promise. Hey, Jack. Hey, Augie. Hey, Mr. Pullman, said Jack. How you doing, Jack? We'll see you guys later. We waved as he turned on the ignition and started to pull away, but then I ran over and stopped the car. Said, can you guys try not to hug me too much after graduation? It's kind of embarrassing. I'll try my best. Tell Mom too. I don't think she'll be able to resist, Augie, but I'll pass it along. Bye, dear old Dad. Bye, my son, he said. Jack and I walked right behind a couple of sixth graders into the building and then followed them to the auditorium. Mr. G was at the entrance holding out programs telling everyone where to go. Fifth graders down the aisle to the left, sixth graders to the right. Everyone come in. Good morning. Go to your staging areas. Fifth to the left, sixth to the right. The auditorium was huge and very decorated. Okay, kids, take your seats, Miss Rubin was saying. Don't forget you're sitting alphabetically. Come on, everybody, take your seats. Not too many kids had arrived yet. Me and Jack were sword fighting with our rolled up programs. Hey, guys. It was Summer walking over to us. She was wearing a light pink dress and I think even a little makeup. Wow, Summer, you look awesome. Really? Thanks, you do too, Augie. Yeah, you look okay, Summer, said Jack kind of matter-of-factly. And for the first time I realized Jack had a crush on her. This is so exciting, isn't it, said Summer. Yeah, kind of, I answered, nodding. Oh man, look at the program. We're going to be here all freaking day. And I looked at the program. Talks on talks and some singing and a few things in between that. Why do you think that, I asked, though. When I looked at it, it didn't look that long to me. Because Mr. Jansen's speeches go on forever, said Jack. He's even worse than Tushman. My mom said she actually dozed off when he spoke last year, Summer added. What's the awards presentation? That's when they give medals to the biggest brainiacs, Jack answered, which would mean Charlotte and Ximena will win everything in 5th grade, just like Charlotte won everything in 4th grade and 3rd grade. Not in 2nd grade, I laughed. They didn't give out those awards in 2nd grade, he answered. Maybe you'll win this year, I joked. Not unless they're giving awards for the most C's, he laughed. Everybody take your seats, Miss Rubin started yelling louder. We have a lot to get through, so take your seats. Don't forget you're sitting in alphabetical order. We should go sit. You guys are definitely coming over to my house after this, right? Definitely, she said as she took her seat next to Ximena. Mr. Will, Miss Rubin shouted. Last time I checked, W came between R and Z, yes? Jack looked at her blankly. Dude, you're in the wrong row, I said. I am? And the face he made as he got up to leave, which was a mixture of a look of completely confused and looking like he just played a joke on someone, totally cracked me up. About an hour later, we were all seated in the giant auditorium, waiting for Mr. Tushman to give his middle school address. The auditorium was even bigger than I imagined it would be, bigger than the one at Via's school. I looked around and there must have been 1 million people in the audience. Okay, well, not 1 million, but definitely a lot. Welcome parents and grandparents, friends, and honored guests, and most especially welcome to my 5th and 6th grade students. Welcome to the Beecher Prep Middle School graduation ceremonies. Everyone applauded. Every year, continued Mr. Tushman, reading from his notes with his glasses on his nose, I'm in charge of writing 2 commencement addresses, one for the 5th and 6th grade, and one for the 7th and 8th grade ceremony that will take place tomorrow. And every year, I say to myself, let me cut down on the work and just write one address for both situations. Seems like it shouldn't be so hard to do, right? And yet each year, I end up with 2 different speeches, no matter what my intentions, and I finally figured out this year why it is. It's not, as you might assume, simply because tomorrow I'll be talking to an older crowd with a middle school experience as largely behind them. No, I think it has more to do with this age that you are right now. This moment in your lives, even after 20 years of me being around students this age, it still moves me. Because you're right on the edge between childhood and what comes after that. You're in a transition. We are all gathered here together, Mr. Tushman continued. All your family, all your friends and teachers to celebrate not only your achievements of this past year, Beecher Middle Schoolers, but your endless possibilities. When you reflect on this past year, I want you all to look at where you are now and where you have been. You've all gotten a little taller, a little smaller, stronger, a little smarter, I hope. But the best way to measure how much you've grown isn't by the inches or the numbers of laps you can run around the track or even your grade point average, though those things are important to be sure. It's what you've done with your time, how you've chosen to spend your days, and whom you have touched this year. That to me is the greatest measure of success. There's a wonderful line in a book by J.M. Barrie, and no, it's not Peter Pan, and I'm not going to ask you to clap your hands if you believe in fairies, but in another book called The Little White Bird, he flipped through the pages and found the quote, "Shall we make a new rule of life, always to try to be a little kinder than necessary?" Here Mr. Tushman looked up at the audience. Kinder than necessary. What a marvelous line. Isn't it? Kinder than necessary. Because it's not enough to be kind. One should be kinder than needed. Why I love that line, that concept, is just that it reminds me that when we carry with us as human beings, not just the capacity to be kind, but the very choice of kindness. And what does that mean? How is it measured? You can't use a yardstick. It's like I was saying just before. It's not like measuring how much you've grown this year. It's not exactly quantifiable, is it? How do we know we've been kind? What is kind anyway? There's another passage in a different book, and he flipped some pages in a book to find it. The main character in this book, he said, is someone who is facing extraordinary challenges. There's this one part when someone helps him, a kid in his class, and on the surface it's a small gesture. But to this young man, whose name is Joseph, it's, well, if you'll permit me, it was at moments such as these that Joseph recognized the face of God in human form. It glimmered in their kindness to him. It glowed in their keenness. It hinted in their caring. Indeed, it caressed in their gaze. He paused and took off his reading glasses. It glimmered in their kindness to him, he repeated. Such simple kindness, such a simple thing. A nice word of encouragement given when needed, an act of friendship, a passing smile. He closed the book and put it down. Children, what I want to impart on you today is an understanding of the value of the simple thing called kindness. And that's all I want to leave you with today. I know I'm kind of infamous for my long speeches, but what I want my students to take away from your middle school experience, he continued, is the sure knowledge that in the future you make for yourselves anything is possible. And if every single person in this room made it a rule that whatever you are, whenever you can, you will try and act a little kinder than necessary, the world would really be a better place. And if you do this, if you act just a little kinder than necessary, someone else somewhere, someday, may recognize in you, in every single one of you, the face of God. He paused and shrugged, or whatever politically correct spiritual representation of universal goodness you happen to believe in, he added quickly, which got lots of laughs and loads of applause, especially from the back of the auditorium where the parents were sitting. I like Mr. Tushman's speech, but I have to admit I kind of zoned out during some of the other speeches. I tuned in again when Miss Rubin started reading off the names of kids who made the high honor roll because we were supposed to stand up when our names were called. So I waited and listened until they finally said August Pullman, and I stood up. When they finished reading off the names, she asked us all to face the audience and take a bow, and everyone applauded. I had no idea where in that huge crowd my parents might be sitting. All I could see were flashes of light from people taking pictures. I pictured Mom waving to me somewhere even though I couldn't see her. Then Mr. Tushman came back to the podium to present the medals for academic excellence, and Jack was right. Ximena Chin won the gold medal for overall academic excellence. Charlotte won the silver. Charlotte also won a gold medal for music. Amos won the medal for overall excellence in sports, which I was really happy about because ever since the nature retreat, I consider Amos to be almost like one of my best friends. But I was really excited when Mr. Tushman called out Summer's name for the gold medal in creative writing. I saw Summer put her hand over her mouth when her name was yelled, and I yelled and cheered for her as loud as I could. After the last name was called, all the kids who had just won stood next to the others on stage, and Mr. Tushman said to the audience, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to present to you this year's Beecher Prep School Scholastic Achievers. Congratulations, all of you." I applauded. I was so happy for Summer. The final award this morning, said Mr. Tushman, after the kids on stage had returned to their seats, is the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to honor students who have been notably or exemplary in certain areas throughout the school year. Typically, this medal has been a way of acknowledging volunteerism or service to the school. I immediately figured Charlotte would get the medal because she organized the coat drive this year, so I kind of zoned out a bit again. I looked at my watch, 10:56. I was really hungry for lunch already. Henry Ward Beecher, of course, was a 19th century abolitionist and a fiery sermonizer for human rights, after who this school was named, Mr. Tushman was saying. While reading up on his life, I came upon a passage that he wrote that seemed particularly consistent with the themes I touched on earlier, and I've been ruminating upon it all year long. Not just the nature of kindness, but the nature of one's kindness, the power of one's friendship, the test of one's character, the strength of one's courage. And here's when the weirdest thing happened. Mr. Tushman's voice cracked a little bit, like he got choked up and was crying. He had to clear his throat and take a big sip of water, and so I started paying attention. The strength of one's courage, he repeated. He held up his right hand like he was counting off. Courage, kindness, friendship, character. These are qualities that define us as human beings and propel us on occasion to greatness. And this is why the Henry Ward Beecher Medal is about recognizing greatness. But how do we do that? How do we measure something like greatness? Again, there's no yardstick for that kind of thing. How do we even define it? Well, Beecher actually had an answer for that. He put on his reading glasses again and leafed through a book and started to read. Greatness, wrote Beecher, lies not in being strong, but in the right use of strength. He is the greatest whose strength carries up the most hearts. He is the greatest, he continued, whose strength carries up the most hearts by the attraction of his own. Without further ado, this year I am proud to award the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to the student whose quiet strength has carried up the most hearts. So will August Pullman please come up here and receive this award? People started applauding before Mr. Tushman's words actually registered in my brain. I heard Maya, who was next to me, give a little happy scream when she heard my name, and Miles, who was on the other side of me, patted my back. Stand up, get up. People started high-fiving me. Way to go, Augie. Nice going, Augie. I even started hearing my name being chanted, Augie, Augie, Augie. I looked back and saw Jack leading the chant, fist in the air, smiling and signaling. Then I saw Summer smiling as I walked past her row, and when she saw me look at her, she gave me the biggest thumbs up. I think I was smiling. Maybe I was beaming. I don't know. I walked up the aisle towards the stage, and all I saw was a blur of happy, bright faces looking at me and hands clapping at me, and I heard people yelling things out to me. You deserve it, Augie. Good for you, Augie. I saw all my teachers in the aisle, Mr. Brown and Miss Petosa and Miss Roche and Mrs. Antanabi and Nurse Molly. I felt like I was floating. It was so weird, like the sun was shining full force on my face and the wind was blowing, and as I got closer to the stage, I saw Miss Rubin waving me in the front row, and next to her Mrs. G, who was crying, a happy cry, smiling and clapping the whole time. And as I walked up the steps of the stage, the most amazing thing happened. Everyone started standing up. Not just the front rows, but the whole audience suddenly got up to their feet, whooping, hollering, clapping. It was a standing ovation for me. I walked across the stage to Mr. Tushman, who shook my hand with both his hands and whispered, "Well done, Augie." And then he placed the medal over my head just like they do in the Olympics, and he had me turn and face the audience. It felt like I was watching myself in a movie. I could almost hear the Star Wars theme music playing in my head as I stood on the stage. I wasn't even sure why I was getting this medal, really. No, that's not true. I knew why. It's like people you see sometimes, and you can't imagine what it would be like to be that person, whether it's somebody in a wheelchair or somebody who can't talk. Only I know I'm that person to the other people, maybe to every single person in the whole auditorium. To me, I'm just me, an ordinary kid. But hey, if you want to give me a medal for being me, that's okay, I'll take it. I didn't do anything crazy like destroy a Death Star or anything like that, but I did just get through 5th grade. And that's not easy, even if you're not me. Afterward, there was a reception for the 5th and 6th graders under a huge white tent in the back of the school. All the kids found their parents, and I didn't mind at all when Mom and Dad hugged me like crazy or when Via wrapped her arms around me and hugged me. Then Grandpa and Grandma hugged me, and Aunt Kate and Uncle Poe and Uncle Ben, and even Miranda was finally there. Everyone started taking pictures and pulling out their different phones, and then Dad got me, Summer, and Jack together for a group shot, and we put our arms around each other for the first time I can remember. I wasn't even thinking about my face. I was just smiling a big, fat, happy smile for all the different cameras clicking away. Then Reed and Maya came over, and then Charlotte. She came over and asked if she could have a picture with me, and then Charlotte's parents were snapping, and the next thing I knew, the two Maxes had come over, and Henry and Miles and Savannah, and then Amos came over, and Ximena, and there were all this big, tight huddle as parents clicked away like we were on the red carpet or something. Luca, Isaiah, Nina, Pablo, Tristan, Ellie. I lost track of who else came over. Everybody, practically. All I knew for sure is that we all laughed and were squeezing in tight against each other, and no one seemed to care if my face was the one that was next to theirs or not. In fact, I don't mean to brag here, but it kind of felt like everyone wanted to be close to me. We walked to our house for cake and ice cream after the reception. Jack and his parents and his little brother Jamie, Summer and her mom, Uncle Poe and Aunt Kate, Uncle Ben, Grandma and Grandpa, Justin, Via, and Miranda, Mom and Dad. It was one of those great June days when the sky is completely blue and the sun is shining, but it's not so hot that you wish you were on the beach instead. It was just the perfect day. Everyone was happy. I walked with Summer and Jack, and we just couldn't stop cracking up. Everything made us laugh. We were in that giggly kind of mood when all someone has to do is look at you and you start laughing. And I heard Dad's voice up ahead and looked up. He was telling everyone a story as they walked down the street, and the grown-ups were all laughing. It was like Mom said, he could be a comedian. I noticed Mom wasn't walking with the group of grown-ups, so I looked behind me. She was hanging back a bit, smiling to herself like she was thinking of something sweet. She seemed happy. I took a few steps back and surprised her by hugging her as she walked. She put her arms around me and gave me a squeeze. "Thank you for making me go to school," I said quietly. She hugged me close and leaned down and kissed the top of my head. "Thank you, Augie," she answered softly. "For what?" "For everything you've given us," she said. "For coming into our lives, for being you." She bent down and whispered in my ear, "You really are a wonder, Augie. You are a wonder." And that is the end of the book. I'm going to read you the precepts for Mr. Brown's class as we end. So remember, Mr. Brown wrote different precepts. September. When given the choice between being right or kind, choose kind. Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. October. Your deeds are your monuments. November. Have no friends not equal to yourself. Confucius. December. Fortune favors the bold. Virgil. January. No man is an island entirely of itself. John Donne. February. It is better to know some of the questions than all of the answers. James Thurber. March. Kind words do not cost much, but they accomplish much. April. What is beautiful is good, and who is good will soon be beautiful. May. Do all you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. And June. Just follow the day and reach for the sun. Now, these are postcard precepts from the students over the summer. Charlotte Cody's precept. It's not enough to be friendly. You have to be a friend. Reed Kingsley's precept. Save the ocean, save the world. Tristan's precept. If you really want something in this life, you have to work for it. Now quiet, they're about to announce the lottery numbers. Homer Simpson. Savannah. Flowers are great, but love is better. Justin Bieber. Henry. Don't be friends with jerks. Maya Markovich. All you need is love. Amos. Don't try too hard to be cool. It always shows, and that's uncool. Ximena Chin. To thine own self be true. Julian Albans. Sometimes it's good to start over. Summer Dawson's. If you can't get through middle school without hurting anyone's feelings, it's really cool beans. Jack Will's precept, keep calm and carry on. August Pullman's precept, everyone in the world should get a standing ovation at least once in their life, because we all overcometh the world. Thank you for letting me read this book with you, my friends. I truly enjoyed hearing how much you've enjoyed it. And it's definitely one to remember. Choose kind. Choose kind always.